IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
कृपया ध्यान दीजिए, the language used on the podcast may not be fit for consumption. We warn you, tread carefully. But listen yaar, don't be so conservative.
Yes, Cyrus says is what we call it, but a very sad day for me. Not because I couldn't get parking, that too, but really horrible day. Basically, I didn't want to do the show, and I called Silvery and Rishi up and said, please, can I not do the show? Someone very close to me has died. Personal tragedy. I was in tears. I was choking up, and very hard for me to do the show today. But just want to give a minute of reflection and thought to the great friend of mine, Colin Powell, who passed away yesterday and really upset me. You may not know this, but I actually got to interview him back in the days when I was working for Mahesh Television or Mukesh, can't remember, one of these names. It was a music channel. And we actually got to speak to him. It was the first Zoom-like thing where we spoke from Delhi with a big screen, and he, of course, was in Washington. And we were discussing the Gulf War and things like that. And a good 20 minutes exchange between us, after which we remained friends, as in we stayed in touch, as in I would send him letters and there was no reply. But, for a long time, there was that give but no fro. So, huge loss for me personally, Colin Powell. And I'm going to just take it in my stride because there's some good news. We have a lovely guest on. Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at that beautiful mug. Is that the best thing in the world? Look at that Slay coffee. It's changed my mornings. I mean, I'm always happier, more active, more jovial. Every single day, I'm like singing and dancing thanks to Slay coffee. Slay is definitely a huge reason why. I thank you, Slay. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sure this is the experience of so many Slay coffee customers. So is it any wonder that Slay has sold over, get this folks, 1.5 million cups of coffee since just February of 2019 across 150 locations and across 15 major cities. 1.5 million cups of delicious coffee. This is incredible, and it doesn't surprise me one bit. Slay is just that good. For instance, just try their salted caramel latte and tell me it's not one of the best things you've ever tasted. Mark Kasam, you will just go crazy. It's fantastic. Or their variety of amazing cold coffees, which are absolutely fabulous as well. So don't wait. Order India's best rated coffee today on Swiggy and Zomato. Slay Coffee, India's best coffee experience. And now we'll let the young model in the picture take a sip of Slay coffee. Woo! Slay Coffee! The guy who makes a difference. He's one of those fellows who makes films because he wants to, I presume, change the world or make his point. This is just make films because that's what you're going to do today because there's nothing else to do. So let's introduce you to an award-winning director, creator, writer, Kireet Khurana. I'll just quickly give his biodata. He's a high honors graduate from Sheridan College, Canada, which is the place to go to right now, apparently one of the safest countries in the world. He has won 6 President's National Awards. That's 6 separate presidents. We'll come to that. And 15 international awards for cinematic works besides many others. That's a hell of a lot compared to what we do here at IVM. I don't think we've got a single note of thanks from anyone. His notable directorial works include Tea for Taj Mahal, and that's won 7 international awards and 25 official selections for more awards. You can imagine. His docu-feature, Saeed Mirza, The Leftist Sufi, I'm going to talk about that in detail in a second. Also among the top 10 Indian documentaries on Netflix as we speak. Komal, the acclaimed national award-winning short film on child sexual abuse. We'll also discuss that. In India's first live-action and 3D animation combination feature, Tunpur Ka Superhero. I think everybody knows about that. No need to introduce that. Starring Ajay Devgan and his wife, Kajol. Now, one more thing before we let him speak. Kireet, I'm sorry, but the introduction has to be told. This is the rules of the game. You'll have to just hang in there. If you want to say anything,
be my guest.
You can. He's made over 20 short films on various social causes. We won't get into that in detail as well. The short film genre, I personally think, is really come of age now. And including shorts for the National Film Board of Canada. So one leg's firmly planted there. Besides making over, get this folks, 500 plus ad films for leading brands and agencies, as we say in the Delhi. So if he's got 500 plus...
That pays for the bills.
I was about to say, so obviously it'll be a BMW 7 Series because this is a clearly left-leaning cinematic glory on one side, and then I won't call it right-leaning, but the real world 500 ad films. So yeah, wow. And then what's wrong with that?
No, no, that
You got to balance it.
that pays for the bills and that pays for the project that nobody really wants to fund. That's really how it is for me. Really.
And one more context about this, I don't know why we give this chop. Is it an Indian thing again where we give chops to people on the shoulder? Keep chop. You're like this, and this is the kind of work you do, and you have to stay in that zone. Like poor Amitabh Bachchan has to stay in Angry Young Man zone for 25 years before he finally get a chance to do something else. So I think it's so unnecessary because Kireet is obviously you're a person with there's a certain depth to you and sensitivity obviously in your films, but at the same time you can make an ad film which can be really silly and your own word frivolous, etc., and excel at that as well. I don't see a dichotomy in that kind of thing. So I don't know why people find that odd. I'll let you.
Well, I when I came back from Canada, I basically wanted to come here and make some long format work, and I really wanted to do some great storytelling. But essentially, I didn't have the money for it, and by default, obviously, I gravitated towards advertising because that's really where the money came from. And of course, in advertising, you have to be really, really good if you have to survive that long. We've been around for 25 years. So it chisels your skills.
Fair enough. Let's start at the beginning, but just before that, just to get it clear, because most people I know growing up were ad filmmakers who then become filmmakers. I can give you, as you know, hundreds of names. You actually more like a feature filmmaker, or your intent was making some short films with symbolic messages, etc., and then you got into advertising.
Yeah, so I mean, if you understand a little bit about my pedigree, my father was the pioneer of Indian animation. The Ek Chidiya Anek Chidiya film, the Ek Chidiya Anek Chidiya. Now that iconic film in 1974 National Award film was actually made by my father, right? And of course, he was the quintessential Indian pioneer, and so this is the background that I grew up with. And he had made feature films also, and very avant-garde kind of feature films as well, so-called parallel cinema. And
so your dad had already set the benchmark for kind of
yes. So he had already, in some sense, obviously the upbringing and the atmosphere, the environment at home was very, very conducive for creativity. And he disliked the idea of advertising completely. But by the time I came back from Sheridan and I understood the reality, there was no choice for me but to actually, if I had to earn a living, how could I earn a living just out of short films or even a feature film that nobody really wanted to make? So essentially, and my dad only did films initially, and so that's how it was.
Let's go back then for a second. Let's understand. So you come from a very prominent family. Your father was already someone who set the benchmark a little high. Was wanting to make seriously decent films, and it wasn't. So you weren't raised on Tezab like I was, for example. It's not a bad film. Again, I people should understand that we're not judging. I think there's something for everyone. It's like food on a menu, so that's fine. But that is a bit of pressure because you've got your dad who's like a pioneer, as you said. He's already set a benchmark, set a standard. You've got that pressure is there forever. So you then go to Canada.
No pressure. No pressure. No pressure.
That's one way to deal with it. But my dad was polite to everyone all his life, so I've tried to do that, and I've really failed. There's so many things that you don't have to deal with in your life. They set benchmarks, our parents. Let's return to Canada. So you went to Canada to study film or to just study?
Yeah, I studied filmmaking and I specialized in animation over there. So I did a 3-year course.
Why didn't you try to get into FTI and all that here? Why did you go straight there?
Because I wanted to do animation filmmaking, storytelling. And there was nothing over here except for NID, and NID also used to be called Anadi at that time. So the people who were coming out were actually called Anadi because it was very, of course, and I have great respect for people, but I had great respect for people coming out of NID. Some of them are absolutely fantabulous.
But then how did your dad train himself? I mean, if we didn't have the software or rather the hardware or anything back in the day, in the 70s, let's say, so where did he come from then? Your dad, how did he become?
My dad? Oh yeah. So Disney was making films, right? Disney was making films in a more conventional way. The camera, you had a huge Oxbury camera, which was like towering about 12 feet high. So you needed to actually have a shed where you could actually install that camera, and that camera was actually mounted on 2 rails, and it would come down and up, and that would be a zoom for you, a simple zoom. So everything was it was a very, very technical and very painstaking process where you have to put one drawing and then the camera would capture put one drawing, and if you have to do zoom and if you have to do a pan, then the entire bed would move left and right and all that stuff. It was called an animation stand. It's a humongous. Maybe when we dismantled it, also it was like weighing several tons. When we finally dismantled it and sold it, it was
Wow.
humongous. Yeah,
Got to have a lot of patience, huh, in those days. The shooting, I mean,
yeah.
shooting a small
Oh
action
yeah.
would take so long, and
Oh yes.
movements,
Oh yes.
physical
Oh
movements
yes.
that are
Oh yes.
involved.
Oh
God,
yes.
I don't know why
Oh
would
yes.
anyone want to do that
Oh
after
yes.
a point. But okay,
Yeah.
let's get back to you. So you then go to Canada to study film. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, by that time, the computers had just come in. But luckily for me, I was just at the cusp of time where, things were transiting between traditional and digital. And therefore, I got a traditional training. And I think that has held me in good stead because, editing on the Steenbeck, I don't know if you know, a Steenbeck is a huge machine that,
I'll pretend to. I'll pretend to. Yeah, go ahead.
so we had steam bags, we had steam bags, and we had a lot of Auxbury cameras and a whole lot of other technique. And of course, we had the computer as well, but it was mostly used for the line
Isn't
testing. So,
it, just to segue for a second, isn't it amazing that the tech jump in the last maybe 15 years has been so much more than, say, in the 50 years preceding that, that people like yourself who actually are over 2 or 3 generations, it must be so much easier for you because you've done literally the physical work in the old tech world, and then it becomes easier and much easier, and not just the button, and even less.
yeah,
So,
yeah, but I'm also finding that a lot of people my generation are finding it very difficult to transition to the digital realm as well. Luckily for me, I haven't had that issue at all. So
yeah.
I've
No, no,
somehow
I
kind of.
think that's something we should dwell on for a little bit also. I myself struggle. I like to write. I'm writing my own skits and stuff or something we do on TV, and I still write with a pen. I just cannot type. I mean, I can type, but I can't. I'm very fast. I'm like an impulse person. So the moment my rhythm goes, I just can't do that with typing. It's just typo after typo. So it's funny in another way. It's just
And
some other words come out unintentionally.
I mean, I can't just write to save my life. Nobody can read what I write. So I just type.
Oh, then you must criticize the government all the time. There's no worries. Just go ahead. Let them know what you're thinking. Okay,
All the
now
research paper.
yeah, I mean, I know it is. So let's now you give us a little bit about the Canadian experience for a
So I
lazy boy
was,
from here going there.
yeah. So I was lucky to be because obviously I came from a privileged background and I fully understood that I came from a time that nobody really understood what animation is or how animation is actually done in this country. And I was literally growing up in that environment at home, right? So I was very lucky. And of course, from the age of 6, I was very clear I wanted to do animation filmmaking. And that's really where I started off my career. And subsequently, of course, I was clear that I wanted to tell stories. It doesn't matter which format or which genre it was from. So when I went to Canada, I was the first Indian to actually study, filmmaking abroad, specializing in animation. And when I graduated in '95, I was very lucky because I got this opportunity to work with the National Film Board of Canada, which are 21 countries from across the world were involved in this project called the Rights from the Heart series. And it was about child rights. And child rights, I think the UN Charter for Child Rights came in about 91 or 92. So it was a new thing and United Nations really wanted to talk about. UNICEF got involved, UNESCO got involved in that project and all that. And the Indian side, me and my dad, both of us, and I directed one film and I animated one film. Both of us got involved in 2 films out of those 21 films, which we produced entirely between India and Canada. Became the first ever international co-production of an animation short film of sorts in 95, 96. So it was quite an experience for me. Because, again, when I was in Canada for the post-production, I was given a cubicle, and every single cubicle around me had all these Oscar-winning animators, and you used to have lunch with them. You should kind of go. Yeah, I mean, it was extraordinary. The entire atmosphere was absolutely so enriching, and of course, one of the things also was that National Film Board of Canada is NFB is funded by the government, and these subsidies were coming down because obviously the governments were curtailing their spend everywhere, and all these kind of subsidies that are being rolled out to organizations like NFB, which are supposed to be a behemoth and guzzling all the cash and all that. So it was sad to see that it was all falling apart bit by bit. But I was again lucky to be at a time and an era where the NFB, which is an iconic industry, which is considered to be the Oscars, the home of the Oscars for animation. It's not Disney, it's them. From a short film perspective, from meaningful film perspective, live action, animation, both extraordinary. I was completely blew my mind.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Also, that Navjot Singh Sidhu once, the great philosopher, once said that I'm a vegetarian not because I love animals, but because I hate plants. I'm also thinking that, of course, there's the father's, yeah, the father's influence is huge. The fact that you're surrounded by these world champions, so to speak, and raising the thing for you as well at the same time. But is it also that you actually prefer not working with actors more than, of course, the voiceovers? That you prefer being more in control of the
Um,
project? Is that part of the reason why you become an animator vis-a-vis a director? Although, of course, you're both.
no, I am both. I done another film called Tea for Taj Mahal again, which is what you talked about, right? And so I'm comfortable with both. What happens is that with I didn't have the experience with Toonpur, but I have seen around me. Uh, the film becomes about the actor, and everything is centered
Mm.
around the actor and their needs.
In
And
India, you're saying, or all
yeah,
over, wherever.
I think it's all over. If you're an actor, the reason why you get into acting mostly is because you're a narcissist. You want to be
Fair enough.
popular. You
Yeah.
want to be, in that
You
sense.
can't deny that.
You therefore you forget the story and you forget the art, and then you get into a different kind of space, and a lot of them create a hubris, and I can't somehow tolerate that. And somehow for me to take that thing, because I feel I'm getting an intellectual capital on board with my story
Yes.
and with my understanding, and it is not less valuable than any other contribution from any
So,
other
Kirit,
department.
what you're saying is basic disrespect for the character of actors. I hear you. I absolutely
No,
accept it.
no,
It's
no,
not a
no. It's
problem.
not that. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not that. But you understand what I'm saying, right? So I have difficulty in relating to many people. I wouldn't say, and many great actors, and I thought Ajay was absolutely beautiful as a person, and he was so. Ajay
Easy to
Devgan
work with.
was, yeah, very, very easy to work with. I mean, considering the fact that you're working against it's one single actor working against a green screen for 65 days, and he has no other actor to support,
He's on
and
his
he has
own.
to
Yeah.
support a director who's not made a feature film before, and he has to just believe that everything, this green screen, will magically convert into some animation space. And he did not ever question that. Of course, initially one or two times he was a little apprehensive, but then as he was just feeling that, I kind of spoke to him in his man. He came out, and I kept on showing him stuff in the pre-production. You have to be really strong in your pre-production. You have to be really strong in your storyboarding, in your blocking, in your understanding of mise-en-scene. And in that, he got great comfort. It was never a problem. Never a problem.
No, I can understand where he's coming from a little on a smaller scale. I've done a couple of these pirate shows for Disney where we basically
Yeah,
shot some of the stuff without the stuff being there in the sense.
yeah,
It's really difficult
exactly.
when you're mounted on something with a sword in your hand, but there's nothing there.
Correct,
You're used to
correct,
the energy of the reaction of the actual
correct.
space. All these things help both in the theater and in film. And then, as an actor, I'm saying, and then suddenly you're
Yeah,
really exposed. You're almost like they've given you nothing. They've taken away your weapons. Now fight. It's like that. So I can understand that that is a tough bit, and I've heard many actors complain about that also. They're trying to get in the
absolutely,
mood and they're not getting
absolutely.
anything back, and so hard for them. But
Yeah,
let's go
yeah.
back now, track your life. So you finish with you start off in Canada itself. Then when did you make the decision to come to India again?
I think instantly, because I thought I could make a difference here. There was no animation industry. There was nothing over here much at that time. And I thought, even if,
You had the great Ram Mohan
yeah, and my dad as well,
and
right?
your dad. So there were three or four names.
My dad also learned, incidentally, my dad learned from Ram Mohan.
Whose son was
And
incidentally in class with me. Yeah.
oh, yeah. Oh, Karthik, huh?
And for some reason had a swastika. Karthik had a swastika on his arm. Not a
Wow.
swastik, a swastika. The German
Oh,
version.
wow.
And he gave me a
Okay.
long story about how he's Aryan. Tam Bram boy.
Okay.
I hope he's changed from those days. He was 14.
No, he changed a lot. He's in
Are you in
Mumbai
touch
and
with him?
Sydney right now. Yeah. I'm kind of in touch with him because we lost Ramon a couple of years ago,
Right,
and
yeah.
I met him at that time, and of course, been doing some Zoom calls with him as well to have those
Well, it's a huge
commemorative.
world now, but then your dad's time, it
Yeah,
must mean, as you said, just a
yeah,
collection of
yeah,
a few
yeah,
really smart individuals and creative people.
yeah,
Now it's a much
yeah,
bigger
yeah,
world. Sorry, I interrupted
yeah, yeah,
you were telling us,
yeah.
so you came back to make a difference.
So when I came back from Canada, I had got access to material and stuff that nobody really had access to over here. You remember, this is the time with the pre-internet era. It is now, you're living in the dark ages. When you're shooting off a letter to
Brother, I remember. That's my generation. Don't you worry.
exactly. So when you're shooting off a mail to a snail mail
Waiting
to
for a reply. Yeah.
3 months have gone. You don't know whether you're going to make it or not. And if you have to find out which universities are good, you have to go to the American Center, or you have to go to some library and sift through those brochures. And
Again, to segue for a second, I was just trying to share this with people from another generation. So the whole family would go down to the local PCO to call my sister in the early 90s in America to check on her on a Sunday. I mean, we
Yeah.
literally had to go to PCO and book a call and all that. I mean,
There you go.
how? So I hear you completely. Everything you're saying, all there in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, and Sheridan really chisels you. It really makes a man out of you. And 16, I thought if I got a job offer from Disney as well at that time, because everybody, all these recruiters were coming from all over the place. And I said, if I stay here, I obviously, if Disney's hired me, then obviously I'm good in what I do. And I was a top honors graduate at that time. And I said to myself, if I stay in America, then probably I'll have a huge house, and I'm not going to be staying in this 2 BHK that I stay in right now. But I'm going to have a huge house. I would probably have a Cadillac, and I'm going to have all the the Malibus and whatever.
You thought India sucked there.
Yeah.
Those were the good years.
So, but I thought I'd be just one of those 1,600, 1,800 people working in one Disney studio, and there'll be like thousands of people like me. There are actually literally thousands of people as talented as me, perhaps more talented than me over there. So I said, like, if I have this talent, or this skill that I've acquired from there, and nobody really in India was at that level at that point. There were a couple of people who worked with Ramon who were ahead in some areas, but from a holistic understanding and holistic perspective, I thought I had a unique strength from a storytelling perspective and from the skill perspective, both the things. So I came back, and of course, the reality hit hard that nobody really wanted that skill. So the only place that wanted that skill was advertising, and I got into advertising, and that's long and short is here's where I am right now.
But so your heart is in animation, and you wanted to stand out. So clearly, Disney being a factory, I can totally get that point. But then, is it almost like, so once you get into animation, why would you want to go into films? Why did you make the shift?
Yeah, I gravitated more and more towards storytelling, to be very honest, and the format didn't matter to me. So I made feature films, fiction feature films. 3 of them I've also been associated as a co-producer in a couple of them. I have done ad films, live action and animation both, and some with live action animation combination as well, obviously. And I have done 2 documentaries for Saeed Mirza, Lefty Sufi, and the recent one that I'm working on, we just finished, called The Invisible Visible, which is on the homeless. So I am genre agnostic. It's a story that draws me. It's a story, I feel it's a compelling story that I want to say. And it's a story that nobody wants to, most of the time it's a story that people are, hey, what's wrong with you? I mean, why the hell do you want to make a film on a dinosaur called Saeed Mirza? Nobody wants to hear him. And the movie is beautiful, and everybody wants to know more about him now. Or,
would you not say, I mean, obviously you know him better now, having done the whole thing, documentary on him. Would you not say not given his due in many ways?
Surprisingly, no. I mean, surprisingly, when I met him and I asked him, sir, and I was so mesmerized and captivated with his magnetic personality, and he was so eloquent in his words. And I said, Saeed, I want to make a documentary on you. Has somebody made it before? And I thought, this man should be covered widely, because, I mean, he is
glorified a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot. I think because his philosophy, his understanding of life, his leftist ideals are so beautiful, they're so poetic. And I thought, this man needs to be heard. And surprisingly, he told me, no, nobody covered me up till now. I said, look, I need to cover it. It doesn't matter if there's a market for it. Cyrus, remember, this was a time there was no Netflix. So people thought I was foolish. But this is what I've been doing. I've been putting my money in projects that
you finance a project yourself?
Yeah. Even that one, and even the one that I'm doing right now.
If you offered that to Saeed, he would have made a film instead.
Possibly. Yeah. So I'm kind of in that space where I feel that if it's a story that, and that's where advertising comes in handy, because there's some funds coming in from there, and I have a infrastructure that I support thanks to advertising. And whenever we have spare capacity, we kind of want to tell the stories that need to be told.
Although, would it be fair to say the advertising industry looked at you as this great animator creator first and pulled you
Yes,
in from
even
there?
today, even today, even today.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that remains fixated, and I mean, you know how it is. You can't change
It's an Indian
perception, but I
thing.
mean,
This is a very desi thing for me is that whatever your
yeah.
first thing is now, you can't get out of it for a lot of
Correct,
people.
correct,
Going back,
correct, correct.
to
So
whatever
there's no
profession.
point fighting it. And if I would tell somebody, you know, listen, I want to make a film on Saeed Mirza, and the first question that comes to you is, have you done something like this before? It's like, no, I don't.
You know,
I haven't done something like this before. But you know, can't I do it? I mean, like that kind of a thing. So then you kind of fight. You know, rather than fight and resist the feedback and the perception, you'd rather do it yourself. You know, it's too much of effort.
but you know, you actually very poetic what you said just now about no Netflix. I was thinking this concept, if you went to an OTT today, would be very interesting. You know, the hidden sort of talent which has not been exposed enough, but you know, spoke against the grain for his time. Had the guts to live life on his terms or whatever. So you take that project right now, I think people would be very interested in it. As against
No,
then.
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. People are looking for drama. People are, even for non-fiction, they're looking for drama. They're looking for crime. They're looking for sex, and they're looking for,
Arey, we could,
you know,
Kireet, you could have added two
yeah.
scenes of Saeed beating up the driver for coming late or something like that. I mean, surely we could just put that in. Just please the masses.
I could. A little out of character, but he could do that.
Yeah, really. I did an ad film with him once, with both of them together, Aziz and Saeed.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
very nice. Very nice. Also good tempo on sets. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
temperament
yeah,
on the set is happy and people talk
yeah,
nice. Very egalitarian, you know.
yeah,
No big bully
yeah.
coming and throwing his weight
Correct,
around. Which I just
correct,
can't stand that. It's almost reflecting
correct,
how we are ruled sometimes. You know, why does someone have to be the
correct,
alpha male and misbehave?
correct,
Hope
correct.
that doesn't sound like you, so I think we're safe.
No, don't
So
worry.
did Saeed like it? I mean, that's an unfair question, right? How do we know?
Saeed has been a critic of all my works, right? And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that because I go to him for feedback, and I know I have to listen to him like an like a father figure. You know, it gives some extraordinary feedback, and whether I take it or I don't take it, but I love to hear him because he always have a point of view. He always has a take, and he says, "Son, you know what? You should have gone all the distance. You should have done this. You should have done that." Anyway, so for his film, he said that first thing he said was, obviously, I don't like to see myself. This is what he said, that I don't like to see myself. I find it odd to see myself. So I found that although he was very, very eloquent and he was very fluent in the film, somehow he was uncomfortable seeing himself after the film is made.
As in discussing, or seeing himself or discussing himself?
Yeah, or talking about whatever. He's there.
So even when he's shooting, he doesn't want to come out, is what you're saying?
No. In the shoot, he was absolutely beautiful because it was a conversation. Because the camera was transparent, right? I'm transparent in the sense that the camera was like a fly in the wall. It was like shooting from wherever.
So
It was a conversation.
He's feeling shy to see.
No, he was not at all shy at all. You see the film, and it's really beautiful. But after the film is made, perhaps he got conscious about seeing himself on screen. Is what I'm saying. So while the shooting is happening, he's absolutely his fearless self and his his self-expressed
opinions
activist,
and everything that you wanted.
Yeah. The activist and the activist in him and the filmmaker in him, the do-gooder in him, whatever. He's all there in full glory for people to see. But he said, I didn't like the film. And he said he didn't like the film. But the validation of the film happened when it became, among the top 10 films on Netflix. It was number 4. And what is important is every single person who knows Saeed, who saw the film, says this film captures his personality, which was a big thing for me, because I did not put my prejudice in it. I just put, of course, my love for the man shines through the film, and people thought it's a hagiography or something. But I mean, I'm sorry, I couldn't find too many people who were talking ill of him as well. I tried to find some, to try to balance it out. Yeah. No, you can't make a hagiography, and like, all of us are flawed at the end of the day. But you can find a few people who can, even if they are some right wingers, it doesn't matter. But you can find a few people who can talk bad about, he's an armchair intellectual or whatever. But I couldn't find anybody, because nobody really wanted to. That man commands tremendous respect and therefore, it was beautiful.
So let me just understand this for a second. Are you saying from his perspective, he finds it uncool to compliment his image? Is that what was happening there? I'm not able to
Uh,
understand why he would just flat out say I didn't like the film when
I
everybody
don't
else
know.
likes the film and the film rates really well, and everybody around him says that's him. So why would he? It's almost
No,
like
I wouldn't say he doesn't like the film, like he blatantly doesn't like the film, but it's okay. I mean, whatever. I mean,
okay. Maybe he
he's
comes from
not
a world where
he's not charmed by the film, is what I'm saying.
that's amazing. I would think that you
Yeah.
do a tribute to anybody, you'd have to be either, the reverse vein or I don't know what it is, like to some other extent. Where who does it? I mean, everybody likes to see themselves being glorified. Maybe he did in a way, but he just doesn't want to express
No,
it.
Saeed doesn't. Saeed
No.
never makes it about himself. That's a wonderful part
And
about
but
him.
that doesn't bother you at all because the one person you wanted to
No.
please by doing this project was him. So all the other
Yeah. But you
plaudits
see,
are sort of
that
wasted.
if you've seen his films, it's never about him. It's about a class and a strata of society that he doesn't
Right.
belong to. But he's taking it
Right.
up for them. So the idea is it's never about him. It's always about the people on the streets. It's always about the common man. It's always about that disenfranchised, underprivileged person who's suffering.
He's the original Kireet Aam
Yeah.
Aadmi Party sort of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean that's him literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
All right.
without the trappings of power. So that's
And
makes him
without the
different from
muffler.
Ahmadi Party.
Ain't seen no muffler on Saeed Mirza. All right, let's try and fit in a couple more. We're already getting to the break time. Before we go to the present one on the homeless, let's talk about Komal because that's a national
Yeah.
award-winning short, and also the concept of short films. It seems to have really come a long way now. I think that's it. That's the future. It's like T20 cricket. You can't deny it. Shorts.
Yeah. So actually, throughout my career since '96 when I started my company, because I felt a little odd that the real purpose, the rise of Datra, which I came to India for, was to make films and to tell stories. And all I'm doing is advertising. Of course, initial years was about building infrastructure, getting machines, getting people, getting
All that.
making
Logistics.
edit
Yeah.
suite and this and that and sound studio and this and that and everything. But I felt like my soul somewhere of what I really wanted to be and what I really wanted to do was getting lost. So every single year we started producing a short film on our own, with our own cost. So, and these films obviously were around social causes. So sometimes they were commissioned, sometimes they were not. And this particular film, Komal, was a commissioned film by Childline. When I say commission, means they are not for profit. It's like you barely make money. You barely break even. Probably you spend money from your pocket to complete the film as well, right? And
This is
this
taking
film is
leftist
about
filmmaking to another level. How to lose all your money
yeah,
making a great
yeah,
film.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's something that I want to do, and it's something that fulfills me in some way. And so I made this film on child sexual abuse, and it won the national award, and it became such a powerful film that when Smriti Irani saw it and Menaka Gandhi saw it, and I think they were in 2015, they were in important places. They both of them recommended that the film be not recommend. They made it mandatory for the film to be shown to all children across India. So it was
Wow.
compulsory viewing in schools, and therefore hundreds and millions of children have seen it, and almost everybody. In fact, if you have children, then you will also probably have seen the film already as well. The idea is that the film is one of the
I
first.
think they have actually.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
may
sorry
have.
to interrupt. I think my daughter did mention that
Yeah,
we had to sit
possible.
through a
Possible.
film today on sexual. Yeah,
Yeah, possible.
had to be the
Possible.
same one. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the idea is that when we talk about the film, of course, 167 awards, other awards internationally as well, and UNHCR dubbed it in 30 foreign languages as well. So they took it overseas and they would do it, and it's available in 18 languages in India as well, including the accessible version. And the important part to understand is this is perhaps one of the very few, perhaps the only film that actually teaches children about good touch, bad touch in a way. And
Yeah,
the
that's
reason why I
sincere.
chose animation, and the reason why I chose animation is because some of the elements in the film are too. If it done in live action, they are too
Graphic.
gross, or they are too.
Yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
they become too.
Difficult to expose
Etched,
someone to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the medium animation is in this case became an advantage because it became a way to kind of give a soft blow,
No, I
soften the
think
blow.
that's right. You have to communicate. You all communicate in the end.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
fair enough.
yeah,
You have to figure out a way where they are not turned
yeah,
off enough,
yeah, yeah,
because you want
yeah,
this conversation to happen. I think that I read about a lot of people at that time talking about the fact that the big problem with India and sexual abuse with minors and things like that is nobody talks about it. So I
yeah,
think for once I'll have to agree
yeah,
with Smriti Irani. I'm a huge fan of Manika, so that goes without question. Any animal lover, I'm right
yeah,
behind. But
yeah,
Smriti Irani and I finally find some happiness and
yeah. Common ground.
consensus. Yeah, common ground. Yeah, but I think that's huge. So what you've done is, I think, fabulous, honestly, because
Yeah.
the whole,
Thank
it's like the dark continent, or the thing that nobody speaks about, the villain in
Yep.
Harry Potter,
Yep.
to contemporize it.
Yep. Yep. And
Quickly,
because we do not have sex education, because we do not talk about these issues, which
yeah.
is why you have the incidents like Nirbhaya, right? Because we're not open as a society. I mean, we're 1.4 billion people, but nobody really talks about sex. And
What an
so
irony. Bhagwan ke jane. All right. Just a quick word then on well, Tunpur ka superhero everybody knows about, so I won't talk about that.
yeah.
But the present project on the homeless. I mean, there's a Saeed Mirza and you, so to speak. Also, I mean, you wanted your cause after cause. It looks like.
By virtue of the fact that I was associated with a lot of social cause films, I was invited to this fellowship program called Aspire Circle, right? And there were 125 top social leaders there. And I was the only misfit filmmaker. Of course, they wanted diversity in the name of diversity. Okay, let's get a filmmaker also who does
You
films
must
on
be the
the
most
social.
popular in the moment you were the filmmaker amongst them. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possible. So the idea is that when I went there, I met this man who works with the homeless, and he was, and whenever he shared from his life, and whenever he shared about, he was working with the homeless, right? And whenever he shared from his life, and he is associated with TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and he runs an organization called Koshish. Whenever he shared, I used to get goosebumps, not just me, everybody around us. And many of us used to break down in tears. His sharing was so goddamn powerful that I thought that I want to make a film just on his sharing, just on his stories. Cyrus, can you imagine that we have 70 goddamn million people in this country? 67 million is the population of France, by the way. So an estimated, nobody wants to do the census because obviously it's a shame for this country. But we have estimated 70 million people in this country who are destitute. Okay. And 18 million people 18 million among them are kids, just 10 years ago, 12 years ago, some census was done as well. Of
So
course, we
Achhe
can't.
Din Aayenge ka slogan is then not making sense.
This is so. I'm not getting into any political debate. I'm not getting political discussion
I
here.
can't resist.
The idea to understand is there is an intense amount of serious shame that the country carries on its head for decades now. And one of the things that the film talks about is this: in 1959 there was this Bombay Beggary Prevention Act, which is that if you are poor and if you look like you don't have any ostensible means of earning a livelihood and you're walking with tattered clothes on the road, you can be arrested by the police just for your poverty. So criminalization of poverty is happening in this country, and you're put into what is called beggars' homes, and they're not homes, they're remand homes that are worse than jails. Okay, and you can be put over there for 1 or 2 years or even 10 years. Up to 10 years, you can be put there without a trial.
But it's like
Where
a
there
lockup.
are,
You're locked up.
yeah, it's a lockup. It's just
Can't
called
go out.
beggars' home. No, you cannot. It's a remand home. You cannot. It's a jail, and worse than a jail because there are dead bodies lying there. There are, I mean, it's extremely gross, and there are rats that are nibbling on the bodies. All those kind of things are happening.
Who thought of this solution as a way to deal with poverty?
No, I mean, that's what we've been doing. We've been invisibilizing these people, right? They're known as the invisibles across the world. It's not just India. Homelessness is a problem across the world. Of course, it's 0.15% somewhere, or it's got 0.20% somewhere, and we have like almost 4 or 5% here.
It's still a crime in society. It's just that their crimes are a little less in terms of proportion. You're saying 70 million, close to 70 million. That's a ridiculous figure.
Yes, that's an estimated. See, nobody really knows the true number, but that's the estimate that you get from a lot of people who work in this space. This is the number that we think it is there. When we talk about destitute, we're talking about destitute, not just the homeless, we're talking about destitute who are on the fringes. I mean, think about it. 45% of Mumbai lives in slums, right?
Yeah.
We know that. Yeah, we know statistically, right? Aren't they destitute? And look at the way they're living in the conditions around the
Well,
track.
it's relative because at least they're not as destitute as people on the road who actually sleep on the pavement or on
Yes,
a bus stop. I
yes,
mean, I know the same beggars who sleep there because I frequent those
yeah,
areas sometimes.
yeah,
They actually live there. They're not lying. And you
yeah,
see them in the
yeah.
night
So
sleeping, for example.
yeah, so the urban poor is different from the rural poor, but the urban poor is, you can see it's far more abject. It
Yeah.
at least seems like that because they're
Relative
but
to
yet
us.
we are looking through them. And one of the things that the film talks about is, of course, the decriminalization of poverty, which is repealing that act, Bombay Beggary Prevention
Oh, it's
Act.
still on the
Oh
books.
yes,
You can still
59.
be arrested for being a beggar.
Every single day, that's what the film talks about. And we have got incidents of that. And so we have gone to the beggar's home. We couldn't enter the beggar's home because it's the jail. You can't shoot in the jail, but we shot people outside. And so their story is about humanizing these invisibles, so visibilizing them. And that,
What's the concept of that remand home? I know we're running out of time, but I don't understand. You put them in and just lock them up. How do you unbeggarize people or lift their status? What's the point of that? Just to keep them off the road, is it?
the idea is that there are many things that this country does not have solutions for yet. And the idea is because we're not even asking the question. Once we start asking the question, once we visualize them, like you were not aware of this issue. Once we start asking the question, aren't these our citizens? Aren't these people who are citizens of our country? Of course, they are stateless people because they don't have any identity. They don't have Aadhaar card or whatever.
It's like a semi-genocide if 70 million people are just disappear. Their lives
Yes.
have no consequence, whatever.
Yes, yes. So the government would want to wish them away. And I'm not talking about this particular government. I'm talking about all governments would want to wish them away. And these beggars' homes have been created for 60, 70 years. If there's one thing that is a remnant of the Nehruvian era, this is homelessness, right? And if the government really wants to fix it, it can fix it. And so this is one agenda that is clearly you can blame to the past. I don't know about the others, but this one definitely.
No, fair enough. It's a huge number. You can't just hide it,
Yeah.
as you said.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have to take a break, Kireet, because while you are solving or trying to shine a light on all the tribulations of the world and how society is unequal and we must try
Right.
and bridge the gaps, people like me, the more commercial minded, as your second avatar also is, smaller avatar, of course, we need to get into a commercial or two and we need to bring in our producer, Silvery, who's listening quietly to the show. I think he wants to be a filmmaker as well. Silvery, please join us. Kireet is waiting for you.
Hello, hi. Hi, Kireet.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Have you watched Saeed Mirza films, Silvery?
I have
Growing up,
not.
and still
No,
before your era?
sadly. No, I have not, sadly. No.
Even
Okay.
Fir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani, I think, was one commercial film that they did later on. But
Oh,
Shah Rukh,
Film,
that
yeah,
was-
that I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Film is
but that doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not quite the vintage.
I mean,
But there are
but
plenty of other
Yeah.
films.
okay.
Yeah.
All of Saeed Mirza's films have been prophetic, by the way. All of his films have been prophetic. And whatever is happening in India today, he predicted way back in Naseem and he predicted way back in Salim Langada. Because he understood where society was. Yeah, Salim Langade pe mat ro. Or even Albert Pinto Gussa Kyun Hua Tha. Extremely
I
prophetic.
remember that
it's
very
also-
well. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely prophetic, he knew which direction society is headed.
Not
Because he's
not a
read so
comforting, not a comforting statement
Yeah.
by Kireet Khurana.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but it was it is the reality. I mean, when you talk to him, and initially I was a little cynical. I said, no, I think he's overreacting and stuff like that. But over the years, I mean, he's proved himself more and more right. He's like, it is very disgusting the way we are. The direction that we're taking as a nation overall.
The sad part is what you just did. Like, we have no idea about this beggary culture thing, and the fact that it's almost how we deal with our garbage. Just uspe dalo ya fake do bahar and just leave it. It's almost like that. There's no long-term process involved. We just lock them up. If that's true, it's just ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can't wait to see that. That's going to be on Netflix, right? The Invisible.
No, that is not yet released. We're right now doing the festival rounds, but there is a trailer available on YouTube for the film.
And then how will we access it in the future? Have you not decided?
No, we will be obviously eventually sharing it with everybody widely. This one needs to be seen widely by everybody. It's not just for the decision makers, the lawmakers, and the judiciary and the bureaucrats. It's of course they are the primary target, but it is also for the people, for the society, because we are the ones who are invisibilizing them. We are the ones who need to understand that they are part of us and they are as human as you and me.
What you just said
Yeah.
reminds me of sexism. Like I've said so many times, till I had a daughter, I had no idea how sexist I really was. Because it's like passive sexism. You don't know you're sexist. Just like that, we don't know about the whole beggar thing. It's not like we're desensitized to it, but we just don't have an idea. And then once we have an
Completely.
idea, obviously we all feel bad and say, what the hell is going on?
Completely.
Yeah. So
Completely.
thank you for that, Mr.
So I mean, honestly speaking, even I am complicit in that, because before I met this man called Tariq from Koshish, even I was looking through them. I was looking through the invisibles and the people on the right. It didn't matter to me. I didn't care. It's like it's a nuisance. यार जाओ ना तुम अगले उसमें गाड़ी पे जाओ क्यों यहाँ पर मेरे गाड़ी पे आ रहे हो? That kind of
And
thing.
I thought, Kireet, I was doing really well because I'm on first name basis with all the beggars of my area. I know most of them, the
Oh, wow.
signals.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and we exchange gifts, as in I give them old clothes from time to time. I'm not a giver of money because I'm a
Fabulous.
stingy guy.
Oh, I think you're doing
But we
fabulous.
chat. We
Yeah.
chat. We have on first name basis. They call me by name and
Yeah.
all. So I have that relationship.
Yeah.
But I didn't
Yeah.
know that what's in store is.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great what you're doing.
Pleasant personalities for the most part, I must tell you.
Yeah.
If you ever chat, I'm
Yeah.
sure you did. Okay, we need to quickly get this ad in so that our show continues. Long may it thrive. Here it goes. I really enjoy driving, but I hate Mumbai traffic. Just yesterday, I banged into a taxi through no fault of my own. I mean, it was completely the taxi's fault. He had parked the car and, just left. And I was looking at somebody crossing the road and these things happen. But actually, that's not what happened. Hear me out. Let me explain, then you'll understand. I was driving and then suddenly behind the taxi, there was written this line, Kotak home loans now only at 6.5%. And I mean, that just seemed unbelievable. So I obviously crashed the car. I just got totally distracted. And I just can't believe it even now. I can't believe I actually saw that line, and it took me months to recover, actually a few minutes. I mean, of course, I'm going to crash into it if you're going to put something like that on the car, to quote the copywriter. How can I be blamed for it? I'm surprised people don't crash into this car every single day because of this unbelievable line. Kotak home loans now only at 6.5%. So guys, कृपया ध्यान रखिए when reading such things. कृपया ध्यान रखिए. The taxi driver, of course, made a big scene about the accident. Crowd gathered, but I said, okay, I'll pay for the repairs, no problem. I mean, I don't mind having that piece of information that I got. 6.5% interest, that's it, on these Kotak home loans. Unheard of. So visit www.kotak.com for more info or visit your nearest Kotak Mahindra branch today. Kotak, let's make money simple. Saab, बहुत बढ़िया काम किया आपने. I mean, in a sense, you shouldn't bang. Don't bang cars. That's bad.
That's great.
This is podcast advertising.
I hope that Kotak comes up with the special rates for the underprivileged as well. That'll be a great thing. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think the corporates have to jump into all these things. There's no other way. The private and public sector together, I think that's pretty obvious for everybody.
Richard Branson said one great thing, and and I was very influenced by one of his books. I think it was Screw Business as Usual or something, what it was called. He said one line which stuck with me for a long time. He says, what was it? Sorry, I forgot. It was something about business.
I remember another line that Richard Branson said when he came to India. He told the press, I'm not Vijay Mallya.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Sorry. Doing good is good business. Very simple. Doing good is good business. I don't know why corporates don't get it. It is such a simple goddamn thing. You see.
Do you mean to say?
No, yeah, it is good business. Yes, good for business. Yes, it is.
So you will profit materialistically as well when you dole out a helping hand.
Isn't it about happiness that you want to spread? Isn't it about spirituality? Isn't it about embracing it, so inclusivity? The earth will be a happier place. So today we are getting into an unhappy place, and you see so many kids who are depressed and anxious because the global warming and the issues that are hurtling towards some kind of a catastrophic event, because we don't know where to stop our greed. We just don't know.
Well, we started housing loans available thanks to Kotak Mahindra at 6.5%. I mean, that's the start. But we'll go further than that.
Yeah.
We'll go further than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get your point. That's why I don't understand, honestly. Also for public reputation and as a politician or a bureaucrat, just for your so-called status, you can do it from an absolutely materialistic point of view. You're still going to gain from helping with situations which are horrible in society from day one, which have not been rectified, whether it's a disparity in income, beggary, whatever it is. So I don't see how you can go wrong.
Tata is a prime example of that. I buy Tata products only because I have empathy for them. I love them.
Well, I'll take some pride in that. I must be having some Tata blood somewhere. I have to check. I must be
Of
something
course.
somewhere. And now that
Yeah.
Air India will change from Scare India back to Air India, just give it a few months. Shall we go to the AMAs?
Yep, sure.
Silva? Yep.
Yep. This first one comes up from Prithvi. He says,
Okay.
"Oh, Ek Din Chidiya Anek, Ek Chidiya Anek Chidiya on DD was iconic in 70s
From
and
his
80s.
dad's,
There was
yeah.
one civic sense
There you
to respect to Mr. Khurana's father." Cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's someone
See?
remembers.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
salute.
it was iconic. It was iconic. It was the most viewed short film till about recently. Probably it's the most viewed short film ever in India.
Oh.
Everybody knows.
There's always a good thing about being the first. When you're the first forever. Everything else,
Correct.
the record gets broken. But if you remember,
Correct.
the first guy, as you said, the words pioneer. So kudos to your dad, because that you
Yeah.
can never take away from the person. First guy
Correct.
in that first group of cartoonists, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, we're
yeah,
doing great
yeah.
work like yourself, but can never
Absolutely.
forget the first. Selvi, I was the
Absolutely.
first out of work actor to turn to comedy. Today, every out of work actor is doing the same thing. Let's just keep
Oh,
that in mind.
everyone's following your footsteps, man. Very,
Damn
very
them
impressive.
all! Damn them all!
Yeah.
Yeah. Next.
All right, next one. Another one from Prithvi only. This is a question. He says, a question for Kireet. I concur
Yeah.
with the whole feed the actor's narcissism and make the movie about him. But isn't the flock of audience in India spurring this mediocrity in the Hindi film industry currently?
So here's I have a different point of view here, right? When we say why the films have item numbers and why they're so degraded and why they're debasing the narrative of the country, and large part of the reason why we have what the problems of this country is also because of the kind of vitriolic media that we have, and also in films are general, they're pretty dumbed down intellectually. My answer to that is very simple. My answer is to in 60s and 70s when you had the Rishikesh Mukherjees and you had the Basu Bhattacharya, you had Guru Dutt's and you had Bimal Roy's. These films were highly successful and they were on social issues. They were relevant. They had great controlling ideas and people were consuming them. They were not like they don't have consumers.
Right.
So please don't tell me today that the audience,
Marketing
we are giving
takes.
them shit because they want this shit. So let's give it to them. No, please, no. I'm not for it. I'm promising you.
Break the chain.
Yes, I'm promising you. If you give them better stuff, they will know. If you give them better stuff, it's just because you cannot think that this far. There is a problem, right?
Yeah,
And
I agree with. Sorry, go on.
yeah, so I mean, the idea is that you saw some great filmmakers and you saw great filmmaking, even the ones who commercialized it big time, like Manmohan Desai. He had a great controlling idea of national integration and Amara Kalpani on the scene
Par
or whatever.
excellence, very clear in all the films.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that everybody down the road. I mean, I hear some great things about Uddam Singh. I want to see the film. So there are some great filmmakers today, right? And who are really wanting to change the narrative of the country through their films and make the country more aspirational and make it more nuanced. Make it more nuanced. We don't want to make mota which actress is dancing on which number and which remix is happening and all this and that. That's not me.
Somebody's not telling the truth. Kireet,
Yeah,
somebody's not telling the truth
absolutely.
because all the people around
Absolutely.
us are saying the same thing. Ki ye bekar picture hai. What is this nonsense? Whatever.
Exactly.
So if everyone's sensibilities are the same around us, then yet why is it carrying on? The sea of mediocrity, if you want to call it that.
We debase the narrative, and if we make it cool and aspirational to really share good content, and we change the narrative of the nation. A large part of the debasing of the narrative has happened. You know why? Because of whatever we have right now in terms of the people who are with us. But the idea is, Uh,
You like
this
that
is
subtle dig,
not-
Silvery?
Yeah.
He woke up and Kireet's comedic style is a little different from mine. He's not underlining anything. Don't worry. You got to pick it up. You pick it up, or he moves on. Sorry, go on.
But this is not a problem of the past 5-7 years, to be honest. This is a problem of forever. It is there for 30-40 years now. And you saw that degradation happening. And unfortunately, there were not too many people to take action or to change the course. But a film like Lagan or film like Tare Zameen Par did extraordinarily well, right? So Amir Khan has found his niche, right? And if you look at some of the more popular films, I don't want to get into the names, but even superstars of their films bomb. And Amir Khan has a 100% strike rate for everything that he does. Everything that he does, he has 100%.
Mangal Pandey.
Yeah, well, it's not his production house. No, it's not his production house. It's not his production.
Silvery. Not his production house.
I don't know about that.
The Rising. You know all the jokes on that.
Yeah.
Get into that now.
No, I know the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is that
That's far as I know, that's the only one. Yeah, go on.
yeah. But see, Amir Khan is also, as an actor, he made very many poor choices, and he's spoken about it as well. So that's a different topic for discussion. But as a production house, it has dawned upon himself immense responsibility to actually inculcate a narrative and to tell stories in an uncompromising way as far as possible. And yet make it extremely successful. I mean, what's bigger than Tare Zameen Par? What's bigger than Three Idiots? Or what's bigger than Munna Bhai, MBBS? Even when you're engaging and entertaining,
There you go, yeah. You're right. When you put it that way, there's enough of hardcore, what you call mainstream films which are telling you stories, messages.
Exactly. And just because you do not have the capability to write that kind of stuff, which is beautiful, you think, no, ye nahi chalta hai. And I'm sorry, that's not what it is. I mean, what chalta hai, if you tell a story from a heart and you tell it well, and if you write with your heart in your sleeve, the story will touch, move, and inspire people. Period. Full stop. And it will.
So this formula is a waste of time. You opened our eyes. This stupid, like looking for a formula with an item number and a laugh track and this and that is all a waste of time. You just got to find a story you believe in, and whatever the hell the story is going to resonate.
The trivialization of the narrative in this country right now, the troll culture, and the trivialization, of course, it's a global phenomenon as well because of social media. But the trivialization of the narrative largely is because of the fact that our audience is mesmerized with the Bollywood fare, right? The usual staple diet of Bollywood fare. And I don't agree with that narrative because it's frivolous. It is disassociating. It is not the reality at all.
Kireet, I have got the answer to this with my agile mind, and I think that every film should be made as you have made them, or the people you have mentioned back from Rishikesh Mukherjee onwards. All these films should be made with the message, with the point, trying to change society, shining a torch, etc. But for 10 minutes, there should be a film in the film, where you can have a little dancing and whatever. They go to watch a movie, and then you watch the movie and get that out of your system. You just do that for 10 minutes and get back to shining the torch on poverty and what's going wrong with our country and what we can do to elevate it, etc. That's it. This is my gift to everybody. Take it. Filmmakers watching the show, which is everyone in India. All right. Fair enough. Shall we squeeze a couple more? It's so difficult to understand so many things in the tech world, which we discussed just now, because you said you're one of those who was able to evolve, and some just fell through it as the generations change and tech changes. Like artificial intelligence, what is that? It just sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Artificial intelligence. Luckily, though, Intel's digital readiness program empowers everyone with skill sets, mindsets, and tool sets to use in an AI-fueled world, so you don't end up like me. As part of the Intel for Youth program, Intel's been working with the CBSE, Ministry of Education, and the Government of India to empower today's youth to build social impact solutions while demystifying what AI is. Now, how do you take advantage of this? That's the question. Kireet has texted me right now. I'm reading it out. So how do you take advantage? Purchase an Intel Core-powered PC and you get free access to 80+ hours of immersive and hands-on training about AI. On completion of the program, you'll get a certificate and access to AI toolsets to try to put what you learn to good use. Future Bana Wonderful by bringing home an Intel-powered PC today. Once again, I'll say it, futurebanawonderful.intel.com.
Follow me at Instagram and Twitter on Bored Brocha. I'm so bored, I need your help. I need your love. I need your touch. Okay, just follow me.
I don't have to ask you again, right? It's a done deal. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. No, I agree. I really love Intel for what it's done to humanity and society. I think it's been a great
Very
leveler
good.
to have for computers. I really appreciate their
So
contribution.
you're like that person who's one for all times. I think there are two types of personalities. There's one who cannot get out of his time. You know how people talk, "कि हमारे ज़माने में, हमारे time में." You know, there's that type, and then there's the type who just keeps evolving. So you seem
No,
to
no,
be
I'm
quite
quite a
happy.
techie. No, I'm quite a techie
There you
myself.
go. There you go.
I'm not a geek, but I'm quite a techie. Yeah, but I have to deal with
See,
it. I mean, computers and edit machines, and
you're
you
an
know,
animator, bro. How can you not be a geek?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean that your first blood is animator. You know, everything is second after that. So you have to keep up.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
no way.
yeah. No, no.
Sylvie, are you a geek?
Kind of, but not as much as Amit. Like Amit is the real geek, you know. Like he knows his tech stuff.
I mean,
Like I like my gadgets. You know what I mean?
he can read
Yeah.
print magazines on tech. I mean, it's
Yeah.
that far. Yeah. All right.
Mm.
Next, can we get one or two more on before Kireet leaves us?
Yes, sure. Keith, you've been in the advertising space for a while. What is your thoughts on this
Yeah.
this current Fab India thing that has happened? That
Can you
the
play the
Jashn-e
line?
Rewaz.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Ju-
the line that
just
Fab India posted, I'm
Jashan-
sure you're aware, but it was that
But-
they had posted like they were launching their new collection, which they were calling
Right.
the Jashn-e Rewaz collection
Right.
for the festive season.
Right.
And the caption that they had
Right.
gone with was as we welcome the festival of
Yes.
love and light, Jashn-e Rewaz by Fab India is a collection that beautifully pays homage to Indian culture.
It's Jashan.
Mm. Mm.
It's Jashn, yeah.
Jashan Nawaz.
Much
You can just
ado
get the
about
exact
nothing.
phrase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Much ado about nothing, actually, to be honest, because somebody really wants to come back on top of news and wants to stay relevant within the system and within the ideological paradigm that they have set themselves, and they just want to kind of outdo each other in terms of bigotry and in terms of intolerance. That's what they want to do. And the more intolerant and more bigoted you are, obviously the higher you go up in the chain of command. That's really
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, we know
Or
it.
they could use that energy, that aggression and energy could be projected or channelized into the things that you've made with just the topics you brought up. For example, beggary. I mean, the guy could go and help.
Yeah, I have traveled across the world. I've stayed there in Canada. I've stayed in. I've traveled world. These values of intolerance, these values of othering, they are outdated, outmoded values according to me. They're breathing their last, breaths according to me in this world because of the fact that social media now is a platform to amplify it. But I see this. Moving further, I don't see this. I think technology and money will be the way to define the strata of society. Perhaps we will always find ways to divide each other. But race and
Religion.
religion and all these things, I think they're just going outdated right now. This is what I sense. I could be wrong.
I'm ready to make them extinct. If you start the movement, sir, your next film is ready. I'll do the voiceovers happily for you. No worries. Really. You're getting more bad than good out of these concepts. What's the point of having them around?
You're right. It does seem like they're just stretching, right? They're stretching for anything. क्या अच्छा, इस पे भी often ले लो, उस पे भी ले लो, उस पे भी ले लो.
That's what.
Yeah, I guess
Publicity,
Mammoths, no? You're
free
outdated.
publicity. You've just given him free
Yeah.
publicity.
Yeah, we have. Sorry, unfortunately.
We have not once. Today we had to do, we did because Kireet is also that advertising face, and as a guy who's, puts his money where his mouth is in terms of films.
Yeah.
So that's why we asked you the question. But we did it yesterday as well.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
it's
I'm
irrelevant.
We'll do it tomorrow also. It's just how it is.
I don't know who the guest is.
perfectly okay.
Or the guest is Fab India 100%. Okay, let's get one last one. Last one.
Yeah.
A couple more because there are some very good, interesting ones.
Okay.
Firstly,
Let's go,
Girish Patil has asked that Cyrus and Kireet, who is your all-time favorite Indian director?
Who's my all-time favorite?
I have my
Indian
answer.
director? Oh, wow. Oh, you do already? Oh,
You already mentioned him. I grew up on Manmohan Desai films in terms of Hindi films.
yeah. I mean, there is no one specific Indian director that is a favorite, but I like movies, right? I can identify films. Okay, I really love this film, and I do not necessarily like as much the rest of the body of their work or some of the things. But I think if one were to talk about from a consistency perspective, maybe it would be Guru Dutt, because he really consistently made great films, and he made films with a lot of pathos, and that somehow brings the empathetic side. It encourages or flowers the empathetic side of people. When you're seeing it, you start empathizing with others and with humanity itself. I think it's a
And there's a
great.
tragic romanticism also, perhaps, which you are
Yeah,
drawn to.
yeah. Not really. No, no, nothing of that sort. No. But yeah, generally speaking, I think the films were very heartfelt and they were very real, and there was no pretense about it, about the films. It felt like he had put himself on the screen. He had given
Yeah,
himself out.
it's from the core.
Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
the core. It's
Fair
about him. Like if you see Saeed's films, the films and the man is the same. The man and the films are the same. There's no difference. You will meet Saeed and you'll see his film. Oh, you say you can connect it. There's no difference between them, because the man is what the films are all about, what he talks about, which is true of Guru Dutt as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
For
also
me,
maybe. Sorry.
for me, that is.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think that's a very good, I think my ridiculous tribute to Manmohan Desai. My only point there is it may sound infantile sometimes because the concepts are so common and similar and whatever, but it's been 30 years on and we still haven't figured it out. It's silly things like
Yeah.
John, Johnny, Janardhan, Param, Pum, 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 Pum is an infantile sort of line on one level.
Oh, it's
But
fabulous.
but it's also a fabulously profound line in its own way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing. He's got three names. He's a waiter. He's delivering stuff, and for me, he's working on so many levels. Also, yet it's simple and silly, almost infantile, if I may say so. But it stands out, and you
That's the best way to actually
communicate.
Pass a message, because if you're too verbose, or if you're too on your face, the audience say that you're preachy, right? And
Right.
what Manmohan Desai did, and I loved his films when I watched as a kid. I absolutely loved his films and seen it several times. In fact, he used to come on television all the time, right? So you've seen it several times. I loved it. I love that era, and I love that Diwar, and that
That era, exactly. Not just Manmohan Desai.
Yeah,
We go a little further than that.
yeah,
We'll give Amitabh Bachchan a lot of tribute to that as well,
Yeah.
because he's standing there and fighting for. He's what they call the Hindi-speaking Ornob, fighting for the rights. Yeah. All right. We got one more quickly, Silvery.
Yep, sure. One more. This one is just a fun question. Comes up again from Prithvi. He says, "Fun question for Kireet. Would you consider making a short animation film on Cyrus, because he is an icon in his own right? He got MTV the mileage it got since its inception."
So Cyrus, I've been watching Cyrus's shows. In fact, I watch it very, very consistent. I watch very little television, first of all. But whenever we do watch, me and my wife, we watch the week that it wasn't the program that is there. And I really love his sense of timing, his humor. And I can see the improvisation is absolutely fantastic. Let me tell you something. Behind all this, even to do just this requires a tremendous amount of intellect and talent, and a presence of mind. Apart from that, so I don't think the frivolity that the garb that Cyrus puts on, the frivolity. I think there's an immense amount of depth and even some amount of grief behind whatever jokes he's talking about, because a lot of the people cannot even talk about those things, and the only way you can do it is in a self-deprecating manner, by kind of joking about it. And that is so tremendous. I can actually feel the pain behind many of his jokes, and I know that it's improvised. I know it's improvised, and all kudos to him. Of course, I would love to make a film on him. Not an animated film necessarily, but something that is more funky, pop arty, combination of whatever.
To be fair, I think the question is asked for the animation, not just because that you're the king of the genre, but more importantly because no actor will be willing to play me. So he's just trying to save you the problem of picking up the phone and getting rejections. But thank you for that. That's very kind. Yes, I've got a lot of grief. It's to do with organ failure and marriage and other things as well. So it's like the concept of jihad is internal and external. So we have both running together. But listen, Kireet, this has been fabulous. So nice to hear from you. I hope you continue. I'm sure you will continue making films that open eyes and question.
Hope so.
Believe that's the only way the world can go forward. Question. That's what you do. So thank you for that and for everything you've done.
Yeah.
And let's have you back and we'll discuss other things perhaps the next time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Cyrus. It's been a pleasure to have both of you over here. Thank you so much.
All right. See you, Kireet.
Okay.
Bye-bye, Silvery.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, catch us on any of the podcasting apps, please. We beg you, we need you. Send us your questions on Twitter on Cyrus Says In, or you can email us, even if you're not female, on whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcasting Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun speaks to the co-founders of Deserve, Sahil Contractor, and Sandeep Jethwani about their business model, their experiences in the investment space, and how the consumer's point of view on money has evolved. On the Wire Talk, Siddharth is in conversation with Srinivas Kodali, an independent researcher and civic hacker, about Aadhaar. On Marathi Kirkitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik Deshmukh pay homage to the late Ratnakar Matkari by exploring his literary journey. On GBCD, Farhad and Sunitro share their favorite queer icons. And on Cyrus Says, Anjala Taneja, head of advocacy at Oxfam India, talks to Cyrus about the disparities in vaccine distribution. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show, or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. We appreciate the word of mouth. And finally, we'd like to thank the sponsors on our network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda Quarter, CoinSwitch Kuber, Slay Coffee, Intel, and Kotak Mahindra Bank. Thank you so much for making this possible.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.